Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be installing some hardware and making the car FBO full bolt-ons. So we'll be doing an inlet, intake, and front mount intercooler. The car will still be remaining stage 1. I've already collected dyno figures, draggy data, and logs so that way I can have an idea of what the car looks like stage 1 on stock hardware compared to stage 1 with upgraded hardware. So let's get started. So the first thing I did is jack the car up. I'm going to remove the front bumper, and once I do that, the front mount intercooler should install within 5 or 10 minutes. So I'll show you guys how to remove the front bumper. So from the top, you're going to remove six of those. And to remove the handle, you just push, there's a little tab there, you push there and pull up on the handle. And the handle comes off. If you see what I'm talking about right there, there's a little button that you push to release that. Once this is loosened, remove it. There's 1, 2, 3 T30s there. You'll take the T25s off from here. Behind there, there's a T25 that is right behind my finger, and a T30 that's up in to the fender. That almost feels like it's Loctited on, so it's a little tough to get started. On the bottom of the car, I removed T25, T25, T30, 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 and then it's the same thing on this side. Because I'm doing the turbo inlet, I'm going to have to remove this whole fender liner, but for right now I'm going to start on the front mount. So the bumper's off. To do it, you just pull out on these tabs and they unsnap from that bracket. You'll have to undo this harness down here from the car. It has one of the red clips on it, so you pull that out, push down, and it pulls out. And then you have to undo this hose. Mine was incredibly difficult to get loose. And then if your washer fluid was as full as mine, you're gonna make a mess. So I highly recommend having a jug to catch the washer fluid that's meant for the headlight washers. So now that the bumper is off, I can remove the shrouding and take off the factory intercooler. So there's the temperature sensor. You just pull that out of the bracket, move it to the side. This is literally just pushed up in place. It's not snapped in or anything. It's held just from friction. And then there's a T30, a T30, and then you have to undo the clamps there, a T30 up top, and a T30 up top along with this clamp over here as well. So here's the stock core versus the Unitronic core. So you can see the Unitronic core is thicker and taller. So I'm gonna get this up here, but first of all, I'm gonna clean off all this leaves. A tip is to use a pick or a screwdriver to loosen up the couplers first, and that will allow the intercooler to slide right off. It's installed. So a little tip is make sure these clamps are really loose, as it's a tight fit, and to get it over the lip of the new intercooler, it does need to be a little wider than it did from the factory. You reuse the factory hardware that mounts it to the bottom. There's a rubber grommet with a metal insert. So to remove it, you pull out the metal insert from the front, pull out the rubber grommet, and reuse it with the Unitronic one. As far as trimming goes, you can see this plastic area right here. I trimmed it right below where it snaps into place here, and that allows it to fit nice and snug. I did that on both sides, same spot. So now that it's installed, put the sensor back. I'm gonna reinstall the front bumper and get started on the intake. Now we're gonna be doing the intake install. So we'll have to remove the front snorkel, which is two T25s, remove the air box, remove the diverter valve hose, replace this with the Unitronic one. We're going to replace everything in the back of the engine bay as well as the inlet. I'm going to give some simple instructions, but there's plenty of videos out there on how to do this. So this should not take you that long to do. Diverter valve tube is removed. That's 5mm Allens, 2 there and 2 right here. Airbox is removed. It just has the grommets that hold it into that, as well as the worm clamps that hold it to this rear pipe. There's then a T30 that holds this rear pipe in, as well as the clamp. Once that's done, the tube comes right off. Skipped a couple steps. I'll show the inlet install at a later date. Can't show that right now. Installed the adapter for the diverter valve tube. Have the rear tube on, have it tightened with the bolt really well. And now I'm going to install the airbox as well as all the couplers. For the front air scoop to fit on this car, I'm not sure if you can see it, but I had to cut a little piece of the plastic that sticks out right there and right there. I just filed it down afterwards. Sorry, I don't have a lot of video of installing the intake. However, it's very easy to install once the stock one is removed. And if you need any clarification, you can always refer to the Unitronic website. It's the same as the 8V. Sorry for the poor video quality, but here I am trying to show a log that was taken with the front mount intercooler. And as you can see, the top is the engine RPM, and then below that is the intake air temperature. The ambient temperature for this log was around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And as you can see, it started out around 15 degrees Celsius and ended up around 22 to 23 degrees Celsius. So it was about an 8-degree rise. Here's a log of the car with the same file, but it was done with the stock front mount intercooler. As you can see, the temperature starts a little higher. It was about 60 degrees Fahrenheit out for this. And the temperature rose from 33 degrees at the very beginning of the run to over 50 degrees at the end of the run. This will absolutely reduce power for this car. So I hope this video helps you guys out, whether it was the install or the data for the front mount intercooler. I'd love to share the data with the intake right now. However, there's a lot of information in the logs that I can't share that have to do with the tuning of the car at this point in time. Since we're still in the beta phases with the files. Not really, can't really share that information, unfortunately. But the front mount intercooler, as you can see, it makes a pretty big difference for it to only go up 8 degrees from essentially a 1/4 mile run, which is exactly what that pull was, is pretty astounding compared to before. If you did anything more than a 3rd gear pull or 2 gears in a row, the intake temps would be over 50 degrees. And this ECU will start pulling timing once it reaches that threshold. So to me, front mount intercooler is an absolute necessity. I would be very careful of how big of a core you go with, as you can actually lose some efficiency with the turbo if you use too big of a core. If you have any questions or if you guys need any help, ask in the comments section below. But if you can, hit like for the video and subscribe for future content. I should be sharing a lot of videos as we progress through the beta phases with ECU tuning for the 8Y Rs3.